Today we're working with measurements in the metric system, especially in length. Our basic units, the first one is a meter. Probably have seen the meter stick before. Also on a football field, it's divided up into yards. A meter is just about 3 inches more than a yard. If we go into some smaller measurements, we're going to use a centimeter. A skittle is almost exactly 1 centimeter across. If you look at the inch ruler compared to the centimeters, you can see that about 20 centimeters is the same as 8 inches. There's about 2.5 centimeters in an inch. Kilometers, if I'm going to do some kind of long measuring, it would be like if I need to get in my car to drive or if I'm going to get on my bike and ride. When people are putting in cable wire, sometimes an entire spool could be close to a kilometer long. If you're a runner, a 5K race that you may have heard of is just a little bit over 3 miles. And then finally, if I'm measuring things that are really, really, really small, I might use a millimeter. The millimeter is about the size of the dot on an I when you're writing. If you use mechanical pencils, you will probably have some that say 0.7 mm. So when you write with them, they're just a little thinner than a millimeter. For most of going through this, I'm just going to read through it, give you a chance to answer fast, and then I'll click on the right answer for you. The abbreviation for millimeters is mm. Abbreviation for centimeters is cm. Abbreviation for meters, just m. Abbreviation for kilometers, km. Milli means, well, we were going to use it when we were measuring things that were really small, so it's 1/1000th. Centa means, in my head, I think there's 100 cents in a dollar, so it's 1/100th. And kilo is the big one. He's worth 1,000. I have a regular pencil. It's 15 blank long. Only one of these answers possibly makes sense. It's got to be centimeters because 15 meters would be longer than the room you're in. 15 kilometers, since each kilometer is a little bit over half a mile, you're talking about a 7 or 8 mile long pencil. So the only one that makes sense is centimeters. A baseball bat is about 1 blank long, meter. A good high jump for a third grader is 111 of these high. So I'm going to be stacking 111 of whatever you think high. Could the guy jump over 111 meter sticks stacked on end? I don't think so. And kilometers would be bigger, so it must be 111 centimeters. The ant, 1 blank long. Only answer that could possibly make sense is centimeters. Our classroom, looking kind of blurry. 3 blank high. Again, only one answer makes sense. Meters. Mrs. Burrows, a former teacher at our school, is 175 of these tall. Only one that makes sense, centimeters. The TV is 50 blank wide. And it doesn't matter if your TV is a widescreen or not, because 50 meters wide is probably bigger than any of them they have at the movie theater, so it must be centimeters. If we're going from our school at Fairlawn to Eastland Mall, it's going to be about 10 of these. Well, normally people are getting in a car and driving, right? So it must be kilometers. The classroom is 8 blank long. Well, if I laid down about 8 meter sticks, it would reach from one end to the other, so it must be meters. A boy's belt is 80 of these long. When we had the measuring tapes out, if you wrapped it around somebody, the only one that's going to make sense is 80 centimeters. The Ohio River is 1,500 of these long. Okay, it's definitely not centimeters. Some people think it could be meters. Actually, 1,500 meters is not quite a mile, and I know you can probably see down the river for longer than a mile, so it must be kilometers. Looks like instead of getting in a car and driving, they're getting in a boat and paddling, so that must tell you it's more than meters also. My car that you guys may have seen before is 4 blank long. Only one that makes sense, meters. Your bed is closest to being 2 blank long. Well, I know it's way more than 2 Skittles, and it's way less than a mile, so it must be meters. Basketball player is 222 of these tall. Only one that makes sense is centimeters. Your foot is probably closest to 24 centimeters. A snake is one of these long. Okay, we can get rid of kilometers because it's not a half mile long. 1 centimeter is only the same size as a skittle. So even when the snake was first born and came out of its egg, it would not be 1 centimeter. So the one that's going to make sense is a meter. If we're going from Evansville to Indy, 330 of these long. Getting in a car and driving again, so it's got to be kilometers. Pancake from IHOP, 20 blank wide. Only one that's going to make sense is centimeters. A school, doesn't matter which school we're talking about, 100 blank long. Kilometers does not make sense because that would be over 50 miles. Centimeters does not make sense because 100 centimeters is just 1 meter. So a little bit over 3 feet long. It's got to be 100 meters long. Mrs. Ubelt jogs 5 of these every day. Well, if you're going to take the time to put your jogging shoes on and get dressed and stuff, you better be going for a while. 5 kilometers. A piece of spaghetti is about 30 of these long. Centimeters. A tall tree would be 20 of these tall. If you were thinking kilometers, that would make it about 12 and a half miles high. Even giant red ones in California are not that tall, so it's just meters. A golf club is about 98 of these long. Well, the golf club's almost exactly the same as a meter stick, so that would be 98 centimeters. A house could be 8 of these tall. Okay, 8 centimeters obviously doesn't make sense because that's only 8 Skittles tall. If it was kilometers, that would get us up into the miles, over 4 miles, maybe 5 miles. So it's got to be 8 meters. Classroom door is 2 of these tall. Only one that makes sense, 2 meter sticks. Fred rode it around town on his bike. He rode a total of 6 blank. Okay. 6 meters would not make sense because that wouldn't even get you down your driveway. So it must be kilometers because he went all around town. A pickle is 12 of these long. Might be kind of short, but it would be a centimeter one. A step ladder is 165 blank tall. Well, 165 meter sticks stacked up would be way too tall, so it must be 165 centimeters. A little bit less than 2 of the meter sticks. A mouse is 18 of these long. And if it's anything besides centimeter, you got a giant problem. Garden hose is 25 long. Okay. 25 centimeters is less than a foot, so that hose is not going to reach anywhere. And 25 kilometers is going to be way over 10 miles, so I'm going to go with 25 meters. The screwdriver is 20 blank long. It's less than a meter stick, so it must be centimeters. A dollar bill is blank of these centimeters long. So we got one. Well, that's just 1 Skittle long, so that doesn't make sense. 15 Skittles long, or 150 Skittles long. 15 seems to be the one that makes sense. Our gym at school, no picture. How many meters long? How many meter sticks could I put to go from one end to the other end? 3 of them? That's not very far. 30, 300. Correct answer is 30. The width of one of our lockers is how many centimeters wide? 2 Skittles, 20 Skittles, 200 Skittles. Wide. Remember wide, not long. 20 would be your answer. Everybody always has fun with the toilet paper when they're little, don't they? So the entire roll of toilet paper, how many centimeters long? 40, 400, 4,000. So if it's 40 centimeters, that's less than 1 meter. That's not very far. 400 centimeters sounds like a lot, but that's only 4 meter sticks. That would basically reach across your living room. 4,000 is the one that's correct. When you go swimming and you got your beach towel out, it's how many meters long? So if I laid meter sticks beside each other, it's going to be 2. The movie screen, this one happens to be an outdoor one. How many meters long? 330, or 300. In this particular case, it looks like it's about 3 of them. Or maybe not. Maybe 30 of them. 13 laps in the gym is how many kilometers? Well, remember, a kilometer is a little bit over a half a mile. So 13 of those laps, do you think it's more than a half mile? Is it 10 of the half miles, 100 of the half miles? Should be one. From our school to Mickey D's, how many kilometers? Remember, kilometers over a half a mile, so do you think it's 2 half miles, 20 half miles, 200 half miles? Probably about 2. An extension cord is how many meters long? 1, 10, or 100? If you look at how many loops they have there, the only one that makes sense is going to be 10. Pool table, how many centimeters long? 220 or 200? Well, you see the pool cue right there. It's probably longer than a meter stick. So 2 and 20 don't make sense, so it must be 200. 1 mile is about how many meters long. So if you were going a mile, how many meter sticks could you put down? The answer would be 1,500. Your bedroom, how many centimeters long? So I'm putting down the Skittles from one end to the other. You could probably stack 100. Does that seem like enough? 100 would probably get you as long as your dresser, maybe half your bed. So we're going to go with 1,000. The banana, how many centimeters long? One would only be the length of a Skittle. 150 Skittles? 15 Skittles? Probably 15. If you have a horse race like at Ellis Park, how many kilometers long is it? Remember, a kilometer is over a half a mile. So do you think it's 2 half miles, 20 half miles, 200 half miles? 200 half miles would be 100 miles. I don't think the horses would last. 20 half miles would be 10 miles. And I don't know if the horses could last that long or not, but it would be a very long race, and you probably wouldn't have too many people in the crowd watching. So 2 half miles is really just about a mile long. Our school's flagpole in meters. I'm stacking meter sticks on end. Only one that makes sense would be 8. A worm, how many centimeters long? Well, since there's 100 centimeters in a meter stick, that means this is 6 meter sticks long. Way too long. This is over half a meter stick long. Still too long, so it must be 6. Our hallway at school, 4, 40, or 400? The answer that would make the most sense, and I'm just talking about the 5th grade hallway kind of from where the bathrooms are, would give us about 40 meters. And last question, we got a 3rd grader. I want to know how tall they are in centimeters. Only one that makes sense is 150. So I hope you learned a little more about measuring lengths using the metric system with millimeters, centimeters, meters, and kilometers.